If you ever want to know about women, be sure to ask a guy.
Specifically, ask a guy who has no training or qualifications, but is a self-described dating coach.
We are Heather,
Leo,
and Zoe, and the article we decided to analyze was written by James Anderson and is called The Magic Blueprint to Get a Girlfriend.
This article is a guide for single men who have been looking for love but can't find it on their own.
So, the first claim we'll be decoding is that all women want the same thing. The guide summarizes this perspective with the following quote: "All women across all generations almost want the same things. You will understand women better when you start to see their actions from an evolutionary point of view. All women have the same mindset when it comes to choosing a future partner, and that female mating strategy will boil down to just one thing: raising the healthiest possible children. So, for thousands of years, a woman's attraction blueprint remained the same: to find the healthiest and most resourceful guy her looks can get her, and tie him to her and her kids. It should come as no surprise that we concluded this to be false. To begin with, not all women want to be with a guy, let alone have children with one. The guide starts by backing this secret knowledge with pseudoscience. He makes reference to an evolutionary point of view as if he has researched this topic and his findings are backed by reputable scientists. However, he makes no references to any articles, journals, or studies. This left our group to do our own research, and we did come across a journal article called Love Stinks: The Association Between Body Odors and Romantic Relationship Commitment. It writes about how health may be one of many factors that plays a role in what humans may find attractive in a mate. Unlike the guide we are analyzing, however, this research was not written from an ableist perspective, telling us women only want able-bodied partners. Instead, saying that health might be one of the many complex aspects that may or may not play a role in choice of partner. After the guide makes this unscientific claim, it starts speaking of women as if they are merely animals with a specific simplistic mating strategy. This so-called mating strategy is employed to ensure they'll have the healthiest possible children, assuming women all want to have children, and rate potential mates on some vague measure of genetic health. Then, once a woman has made this, frankly arbitrary determination, the guide speaks from a heteronormative and mononormative perspective, saying she must weigh up her preferred man against the best mate from the group that her looks can get her. We found this particularly offensive and, once again, turned to our own research on the matter. The journal article, What Leads to Romantic Attraction, Similarity, Reciprocity, Security, or Beauty, describes how human attraction is complex and difficult to predict. It certainly cannot be reduced to a simple measure of looks, and even so, it's still multidimensional and varies per person. So no, all women do not see men through a video game-esque lens of finding the perfect mate to have the perfect children with.
The second claim our guide makes is in reference to the best ways to talk to a woman over text. The author's initial suggestion is, in their own words, please, oh please, don't send her hey or how's your day. This kind of opener is A, boring, and B, tells her you have no experience with girls. According to Ansari and Kleininger's focus group in their novel, Modern Romance, the first part of this point is actually true. Ansari and Kleininger wrote that the generic hey text and any of its similar counterparts, such as what's up and how's it going, are one of the things in the texting world that have irritated people the most. They go on to talk about how girls specifically receive a lot of these generic messages, and they can make a person feel less special or important, especially when unsure whether the other person just wants them for sex or something more meaningful. This would definitely have an impact on the recipient's motivation to message back. The second piece of advice our guide provides when messaging women is that, when asking a girl on a date, don't be specific about the activity, time, or date. Just say something like, we should go out sometime. This claim is false, as shown, once again, by Ansari and the Kleinger's research. In their novel, Modern Romance, Ansari and Kleinger discuss the attributes of a successful text. They say that the best way to have a girl agree to go out on a date with you is if you use a firm invitation to something specific at a specific time. This directly contradicts what the guide suggests. We also consulted a journal article titled, Women's Direct Opening Lines Are Seen as Most Effective. This article primarily talks about how women approach men, but they do also mention that their findings are considered effective for the vice versa as well. This journal article mentions that a direct approach which conveys solid interest in a person is better than being more subtle. This further disputes the guide's claim that vagueness is better. Our guide then goes on to talk about when texting a girl to make her more interested in you, you should tell her things that make her feel like she can't be with you. Some examples the guide provided of this is texting things such as, "You and I won't get along," or "block me." There was no supporting research provided in the guide to back this up, so we consulted a journal article titled, "You Can Handle the Truth, Mispredict the Consequences of Honest Communication." It talks about how most people overestimate others' reactions to direct and honest communication. Trying to manipulate the other person into liking you isn't honest to how you truly feel. According to this journal article, it is better to just express yourself honestly. Communicating this way will also make you feel more genuine and guilt-free. So if you really want a girl to like you, honesty really is the best policy.
The third and final claim we examined is as stated. To make a girl fight to stay with you, you need to fuck her well and spike her emotions so she associates the wildness and good feelings with you. There's a lot to unpack here. The first part of the statement about spiking her emotions caught my eye, and it led me to a journal article called Cognitive, Social, and Physiological Determinants of Emotional State, a study by Schachter and Singer. It examines and explains the two halves of emotions, how they are physically presented, and how we label that physical feeling. Most emotions show up in the body through a rush of adrenaline, which is also called a state of physiological arousal. The most common symptom of physiological arousal is a raised heartbeat. Cognition is how we label that state of arousal, whether that be fear, joy, anger, etc. Cognition usually works by learning how to label the current state of arousal from past experiences, comparing past surroundings and events to the present. Now that we have the fundamentals down, we can see if it's possible to purposefully spike someone's emotions. Having sex with someone includes physical exertion, likely leading to a raised pulse, completing step 1 of forcing an emotion. Step 2 is more complex. Firstly, you can only experience an emotion as strongly as the physiological arousal, meaning if your heart is beating really fast, you'll feel whatever the emotion is really intensely. However, if you know the logical reason behind the state of arousal, the emotion will be felt less intensely. Alternatively, if you have been misled or are unaware of what the state of arousal will feel like, the emotion will be felt more strongly. Thus, there are a few cases in which the guide's claim could work. If the woman you're having sex with has only been exposed to bad sex advice her whole life, peppered with phrases such as, "the first few times will hurt," and then it doesn't hurt, she'll be blown away. However, if she's prepared or has had previous experience, then you'd really have to know what you're doing for her to feel pleased or even euphoric. This leads us to the second half of the claim, stating that once her emotions have peaked, she'll start associating that good feeling with you. I found a journal article called Conditioning and Sexual Behavior, a Review, to find out if this association is possible. Since the guide does not cite any sources, I believe that this statement has roots in Pavlovian conditioning. With enough time and reinforcement, you can learn to associate unrelated stimuli with each other and the behavioral response it elicits. Therefore, given this relationship is not a one-night stand, technically this technique would work, but it's not morally right to manipulate your partner into liking you. There's also much more to a relationship than good sex and feeling good when you think of your partner, such as general emotional connection, which will also help with the sex.
Although James Anderson does not back up his own claims with research, we found the roots of some of his statements are partially supported by academic research, but overall are exaggerated and untrue.
Now we know that all women do not want to have kids with a man, being direct with communication is more efficient and easier than being vague, and that having good sex will make your girlfriend happy when she thinks of you, but there's far more to a relationship than that.
We found this article guilty of reinforcing heteronormative, sexually normative, mononormative, cisnormative, and ableist rhetoric.
As well, Anderson writes about women like they're objects to control and tame so naturally that any vulnerable, impressionable reader genuinely turning to this guide for help would not think twice about it.
So, if you're a single guy desperately searching for a girlfriend, whatever you do, don't turn to this guide. Instead, join Tony Serafini's class to get the actual facts.